Welcome to the Cinchuation Podcast, brought to you by Saddle Up. Saddle your horses, tighten those cinches, and join us as we dive into the heart of the Western equestrian lifestyle.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming back for another episode of the Cinchuation Podcast. Today we have a special guest. Marianne from Circle Y is here. So excited. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, excited to be here.
Yay! I've been waiting for this.
Two of my favorite people right here.
Yay!
Oh,
Aw,
nice.
Yeah.
Same.
Samey.
Yes. So I hear you have a surprise for us.
Yeah, so
Okay.
a couple of years ago, I was in the store and Dana and Lindsay were really struggling with their new point of sale inventory system. And, I just threw it out there that, well, it's Mercury in retrograde. It's not necessarily the system.
Right.
And they
right.
look at me like, what? What are you talking about? So I went in to explain what Mercury in retrograde, and all the people eye rolling, Google it. So
It's for sure, because
it's for
every
sure.
time now we're like, man, is that retrograde thing? Like,
So I brought some little presents for next time
how
Mercury is in
cute.
retrograde. Damn you, Mercury is retrograding all over me. So
God,
so
that's
this is a little
hilarious.
treat, and I brought a special candle, which is a calming Mercury in retrograde candle, and I've conveniently put the dates of the next Mercuries in
Oh, that's
retrogrades
awesome.
for
Oh
the
my
rest
God,
of the year.
Marianne.
So
And
be
the
prepared,
next
July
year.
17th and the next
Oh,
year.
Lord.
So when it gets really stressful, you just light the candle.
Okay.
And
We're gonna
then
put that right there.
also I got a little mug here. Mercury just retrograded all over me. And of course, we need to put something in the
Oh
mug.
my gosh, that's
So
fabulous.
goes
this is
perfect
just to
together.
kind of help you guys through the struggles that you have
Aw.
when it's Mercury in retrograde,
Well,
because it
thank
is a
you.
thing.
It is
We
a
all-
thing.
It
No,
is
as
a
soon as
super
you
thing.
said that, and there's times I'll message her and I'm like, hey, is this like happening? Because sure enough, it happens all, and every
awesome.
time I'm like,
Yeah.
nope, it's the retrograde.
It's a thing.
Aw,
So
that's so cute.
just
Thank
to help
I
you
love
guys
that.
with the next Mercury in
with our
retrograde.
struggles
Awesome.
that we
Yeah.
have doing
Right,
this.
exactly.
That dang
So.
retrograde. Or retrograde, yeah.
Yeah.
How did you learn about that?
My sister actually told me about it one day when my phone was doing this flippy thing, and she's like, "Oh, that's Mercury in retrograde." I'm like, So here we are to
talking about?
educate everybody. It's a
real
thing.
thing.
When your
Yes.
phones, your computers, your blenders, whatever, it's Mercury in
Your
retrograde.
personality. The people.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
This is
funny.
now the warning sign. You just put this on your desk and
We'll
say.
put a sign on the door
Yeah.
and
That
just,
is
that's,
so
you know, it
funny.
is what it is.
So
Oh, that's funny. Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, first of all, I guess, I love that. That's awesome. We just close the blinds, have a printed blind that says, nope, that Mercury.
Sorry.
It's closed for the retrograde.
Great.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. Made my day. I guess first, do you want to just give us some background on you, like your horse experience and kind of what led you, like on your journey to work with Circle Y and getting in the industry?
Yeah, it's been a long journey. I mean,
Yeah.
I was the horse crazy teenager. My parents didn't know one end of a horse from another when we grew up in Arizona. And I was just that horse crazy kid.
Yeah.
And I did everything I could. And my parents are like, well, if you want a horse, you're gonna have to pay for it. I said, I will. I'll babysit, I pet sit, I whatever. And I did. I had horses, and my first horse was an Appaloosa named Frosty Oleo. And
Aw.
he kind of reminds me of the horse I have now. So I must have a type.
Yeah.
And so, I did 4-H with him. My mom, having no knowledge of horses, she signed us up for 4-H, me and my sister,
Yeah.
and we did 4-H, and then I went to Scottsdale Community College and did equine science.
Wow.
So it was a associate's arts degree, and I learned a lot of things about horse health, horse care, animal husbandry, training, things like that, stuff more of a formal kind of information. And then I went to work in the hospitality industry.
Yeah.
But I still had horses, and I still was a part of a lot of regional groups. I was active in horse clubs. I was very active in 4-H even after I was out of 4-H.
Yeah.
I was a leader. I was a judge. I always was helping different organizations and volunteering, mostly therapeutic riding, all that. I was very active in all that before I even got, and I suggest that to anyone who wants a job in the horse industry. You know, be involved in horses, learn as much as you can about horses and organizations. And so, you know, as I kind of grew weary of the hospitality industry, I ended up kind of putting my foot down about 10, 15 years ago. I said, I really want a job in the horse industry. And so I kind of really focused on that. And I ended up, Julie Goodnight, who's a really good friend of mine for 30 years, she said, hey, you know, she was an endorsee for Circle Y. She goes, they're looking for a salesperson. So I applied and I got the job, and that was over 10 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
So, and it's a job I love every day.
Yeah, and you're amazing at it. You kick
Thank
butt.
you. I
Yeah.
do love it. And,
Yeah.
you know, I feel so blessed to be able to wake up every morning. I'm sure you guys are like this too.
Yeah.
Because you wake up
absolutely.
every morning and you're like, yeah, we have good days and bad days, but for the most part, you really love what you do and the people you interact with. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, you get to meet some really interesting people too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I
Yeah.
love that. I didn't know. Yeah, see, we learned so much about people.
Absolutely.
I had no idea that
know.
you were even from Arizona, like, and all that. That's so
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it, and it was just kind of just because Circle Y was hiring at that point and Julie
Yeah.
recommended it? Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Right place, right time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's who you know.
Yeah.
So, and,
A
and
lot
we
of
would have
times.
thought the opposite, that you met Julie through Circle Y.
Yes,
So,
yes.
yeah, we
and you
would
like
have thought-
sought after Circle Y
Yeah.
kind of. Yeah.
I met Julie at, I owned a stable in southern Colorado, a riding stable, and I was doing like learning how to give lessons, and I signed up for a CHA clinic, and it was in Woodland Park, and I showed up and there was like 20, 17, 18, and 19-year-old girls, and then there was Julie Goodnight,
Oh wow.
who was doing the same course. And this was like in the 90s.
Uh-huh.
And we're like, okay, we're going to be friends because this giggling, you know, was like a little sleepover party for 3 days. We were like,
Like, we're
so
not into
anyways,
that,
we ended
yeah.
up becoming fast friends and have we've done a lot of things together. So I've
How
helped her a lot with
cool.
her show and things like that. So yeah.
That's
fun.
fabulous.
Yeah.
That is.
It's
Aw. Wow.
Very,
That's
very
crazy.
cool.
Yeah. It's who you know.
You know, yeah, yeah. And I know your job title, like you do many things, like you're not just a sales rep, like you do some designing, some awards. What is like a day-to-day, like what does that look like to you?
Yeah, so it is. It's a very, that's the best part about my job is every day's different.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, I was just thinking about this. In the next week, I'm doing this podcast today, which is fun. And then I hop on a plane, go to New Mexico. I travel and see stores. I go and talk about new products, do inventory, work with them on their, you know, what things are going to sell, that kind of thing. So I'll have, you know, 8 or 10 stores in central and southern New Mexico. Then I come back Friday. Monday, I'm doing a saddle fitting demo for Fox 31.
Oh wow.
Nice.
A segment with Dan Durow.
Oh my
and-
gosh.
And then on Tuesday, I go down to the PRCA. We're doing, we're joining forces with them, and I'm going to be designing their rodeo saddles for the next year.
That's
So-
amazing.
And last year you got to go to Virginia
Yes,
for
to Lexington,
Oh,
to Arlington National
The
Cemetery.
Wow.
To do the, I designed and helped design a saddle that they implemented for the caisson at Arlington National
Wow.
Cemetery. And that was really definitely a high point in my career.
Oh,
And
I
I
bet.
did that with Julie and then Daryl Nephew, who's works for Circle Y. We all kind of came up with the whole new saddle. There were 17 saddle companies they're presenting,
Wow.
and they chose our design. And what an honor to see in the funeral procession for Jimmy Carter, to see our saddles.
Oh my gosh, wow.
on the national stage.
Yeah.
Wow.
And how
Oh my gosh.
I know,
they're
give me
just
goosebumps.
I know,
yeah.
me too. I'm like,
I know, me too. It's like
Oh,
it just
that's awesome.
and the fun part is I get to go back there about every quarter because
Aw.
they're very into saddle fitting and making sure the saddles fit. They get new horses, and some horses leave, and some horses don't make it in the system.
Yeah.
But they get new horses, and so I go and do saddle fittings for them on a regular basis. So I get to go and do that, and it's really an honor to be a part of that whole system. And we are actually getting more orders from other caissons and other military installations for this saddle now.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's incredible. And the PRCA, that's incredible too.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
man.
Big things happening.
Big things happening.
Yeah.
And then weren't you telling me you went to Mexico?
Right.
Wasn't that-
Yeah,
for,
I was in
NBHA or
Mexico at
something?
the NBA, the
Yeah.
National Barrel Horse Association. Their open finals was just outside Mexico City, and I went in and just really tried to learn about not only the way they do things, but we actually awarded them or we supplied their trophy saddles for their
Wow.
event. And then I just did saddle fittings, and I talked to the people, and just learned about the horses. One thing that was really interesting, and you guys are saddle fitters, you'll appreciate this, is the horses are different than they are here. The horses we see in the US are more short coupled. And these horses had really a good length of back.
Oh
And
wow. You're like,
it's-
what is all this?
it's like real
extra?
estate. Look at this real estate. Yeah. I mean, when you're doing saddle fitting, that's one of the things you look at is
Oh, yeah.
conformation. And so I was really excited to see they had longer backs. I'm like, oh man, I could put a big square skirted saddle on that horse, and be okay.
Yeah.
And I have that conversation a lot with some of the different saddle makers, and they show me their stock list, and they've got these big old square pointed skirts. I'm like, I can't take those. They just, they don't
Right.
fit the masses.
Send them
And-
to Mexico.
Yeah, seriously.
So yeah,
yes.
so yeah,
That's
so
funny.
yeah. I mean, I am the international sales rep. So
Yeah.
I went to Australia to
Oh,
Equitana,
that'd be so cool.
and that was a huge deal. I mean, that was so, again, just learning about the horses. Their horses that they have on their continent, they're very similar to our stock horses, but they're narrower, they're thinner,
Yeah.
they're the Brombies, they're kind of bred with the stock horses. They have different saddles. It was a very interesting, loved learning and talking to the hundreds and hundreds of people we put in our saddles there. It was really fun.
That's exciting.
And it was really cool too, because they weren't expecting to see all the Western saddles. What was interesting is that my dealer there had said that just in the last couple years, it went from being 60% English and 40% Western to 60% Western and 40% English,
Wow.
which is a huge, which
That's
is
a big
great for us to
deal.
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
and be a part of. So
Wow.
yeah, more Western dressage, more ranch, more things like that are getting bigger there. So yeah.
That's insane. How exciting,
crazy.
though.
Yeah. So yeah, I get to do
Wow.
some traveling and seeing new places, and then saddle fitting. I do a lot of saddle fitting, and out in the field, it's always good to connect with the end user, just talking, learning.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's always lots to learn. Even we had a horse here yesterday. This was our first stud that we'd ever saddle fit. Oh my God. Stunning horse. And he was 5 and he was just massive, just this big, gorgeous horse. But his back, a 32 by 32 pad hung over his hip. And I'm like,
Yeah.
And he was massive.
he was huge. Like
Yeah.
the jowls on that horse. Like,
And it's so funny when customers like that, like you tell them, oh my gosh, because the first thing that we look at is how are we going to fit this horse, of course.
Right.
And you're like, oh my gosh, you have such a big horse. She's like, everybody says that, but I don't see it. And I'm like,
they
oh
said
my
that. They're like,
gosh.
we don't think he's that
That
big. And
big.
I'm like,
Well, sometimes they don't have anything to compare it to.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
true. That's
absolutely.
true.
A lot of times people, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And I think that's kind of one of the things when you're saddle fitting and talking to people is, they're, I don't want to say like love blind, but they have the most beautiful horse in the world, and he's really perfect.
I know.
And they don't know that I actually have that horse,
Yeah.
but But they think, I mean, and you know, that was what, you know, something that we've talked about before is like, I don't call it owner blindness. I just say it's a skewed view of sometimes you know, you always have to look at your conformation and the horse's weight and
tell us their horse is super narrow, and then, you know, I'm like, yeah, that horse is not
like
narrow.
Potato. Yeah, it's like an unbiased viewpoint on it. Like you look at it, you see the facts, the conformation. Sometimes, you know,
and that's why it's always good to get somebody that's not a part of your barn or a part of your training or a part of, so you can have an unbiased look at saddle fitting, because that's really, you know, you need that critical eye to really be able to hone in on what you need.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. That's a huge part of it. Yeah. Kind of on same thing, the trophy saddles. There's such a prestigious award. Obviously, you work with some really big organizations, some big names. How do you approach designing them to make them functional, but also like meaningful for that event?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think that, you know, I do all the trophy and award saddles. And so I do everything from Miss Rodeo America to mounted shooting to NBHA to big rodeos and 4-H things. So I always take it as, this is going to, you know, my desire is for that saddle not to sit in somebody's living room.
Yeah.
My desire is to get a functional saddle that somebody's going to ride in and go and win other trophy saddles in.
Yeah. And be proud to like, hey, like I won this.
Yeah.
You know?
I want it out in the arenas. I want it sitting on your horse at the trailer. I want people walking by going, wow, that's a nice saddle. So I always try to do something. I like eye-catching things. I mean, I might do like a turquoise seat with purple stitching for a barrel racer. I might do an iridescent paint job on a Miss Rodeo America saddle. Or I might, you know, for a roper, I try to do something that maybe just eye-catching, maybe like a really unique saddle seat color. I helped design a saddle for the George Strait. It was a trophy saddle for George Strait for his Vaquero. And I designed the back of the skirt was a hand-painted American flag, like the whole thing was a flag.
Oh my gosh.
And so that was really fun. And then I put, because he was in Texas, I did Texas Star conchos.
Aww.
And so it was really cool. I mean,
I'm going to be looking the saddle up.
I know. Did you?
Oh yeah, I'll send you a picture.
Question,
yeah.
Did you get to meet him?
I did not.
Oh, dang it.
They don't let me out. No, they just said design
the saddle.
Yeah. But yeah. So I guess when I'm designing something like that, I love to work with people who have some ideas and then I can make them come into reality.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part.
So this brings me to, I forget about this from time to time. You are an artist as well.
Yes.
So did that help in your placement of doing the design on the trophy saddles, or were you just the person? Yeah.
I mean, I'm all about composition.
Yeah.
You know, that's a part of an art. You know, when I paint, it's a composition, but I treat the saddle as a composition as well. Like, you know, I steer people away when they're like, I want this tooling pattern with this border and this, and I'm like, probably not going to look really good. If you really are in love with this tooling pattern, let's look at a different border.
Yeah.
Or if you really love this border, let's try a different tooling pattern. And maybe, you know, so it's all about composition and in that kind of that overall look. You want something, you don't want it to look bad. And I will never let somebody design a saddle that will look bad.
No, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. I have it's kind of a funny story, like off of the script, obviously. But when I've gone twice now, and it is such a cool experience. But going out to Martha Josie's ranch and stuff, I went out there for a clinic the first time, and I remember you I don't remember if you brought the actual painting in or just a picture, but you brought in a picture and you showed it to me because, you know, I love her.
Yeah.
You know, she's one of my favorites of that, the painting that you did of her running her horse, like from the third barrel.
Right.
And so I was telling my mom about that. I'm like, yeah, Marianne, she painted this really cool picture. And I was just so excited. So we walk into her tack store there on the ranch, and that drive, like 20 hours.
Yeah.
Like that thing is, it says
Right.
it's only like 14. It is
Yeah.
not. That took
Yeah.
me days to get there.
You gotta stop and pee. you
Oh
know?
my God, it was such, and it just keeps, Texas just keeps going
Yeah.
and going
It's
and
a
going.
big ass state.
It is. And so I was the only person, I literally won like 3 awards during their presentation for driving the furthest, being like the furthest state. Like I was the furthest person. So they were all kind of like weird with me a little bit at first because I drove so far.
Yeah.
And I walk in and I was like, oh, look, Mom, there's that painting that Marianne did. And the girl pokes her head from behind the counter. She goes, how do you know Marianne? I was like, oh, I know her. And so we like bonded over that. It was funny.
Yeah.
She's like, this girl from Colorado. Trish,
Right.
how do you know who that is?
Yeah, so yeah, that was that's cool.
Yeah.
That makes my heart happy that the connection was there.
Yeah.
So Circle Y, Martha was inducted into the PRCA Hall of Fame, which not very many women get into that.
That's huge. Yeah.
So they're like, we can design a saddle, but does Martha really need another saddle?
Yeah.
So we came up with, hey, I'll paint this picture, and then we did this tooled, this beautiful leather tooled mat, and it was really
It's
cool.
beautiful.
We did, so that was really cool. That was really special.
She's got it like right in her store as you walk in. Yeah, it's really cool. It's so
awesome.
I haven't even seen it down there, so
No, oh, dang it, I should have taken a picture.
Yeah.
I'd say I'd drive down there real quick, but
no. It'll take you see you in 2 days, 3 days. Yeah.
No, but that was fun.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
We love Martha.
Yeah,
Martha's
she's great. She's man,
fabulous.
what a lady. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's awesome. Kind of on a different subject, I know you absolutely love your Appaloosas. What kind of inspired that? Like, have you always had them, or yes?
Yeah.
What inspired that, and what's your favorite part about showing Appaloosas?
My first horse was given to me. I think I mentioned Frosty Oleo, and,
Yes,
me and my
yes.
sister shared him. And, he was a big Appaloosa. And, I guess it's one of those things where you just kind of find yourself ensconced in a organization or breed. And I've always loved the breed. I'm kind of one of those people who it's hard for me to ride a what I call plain brown wrapper horse,
Yeah.
So I like the originality. I always say Appaloosas are, quarter horses with originality.
Yeah.
And, and also people are always like, oh, Appaloosas, hoo, 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 and I'm like, yeah, there's, you can always say a good horse is never a bad color.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had a lot of really awesome Appaloosas. The one I have right now, I bought as a yearling. He's 13, and I love him to death. He's literally gone from the all-around type of performance classes. He has 36 or 37 Grand Halter awards. I mean, he's just put together. And now we've kind of transitioned him into doing some of the ranch type stuff, which he's really, you can just see him smiling when he does it. So it's really fun. I went to Worlds last year. I'm kind of novice still in that area, and placed in the top 5 and 10 in every one of my classes.
That's
so,
amazing.
Yeah, it was really fun. He's a fun horse to ride, and
What's his name again?
his name is Chuck, or
Chuck.
Charlie Colored Me.
That's right, Chuck. I can't remember. It's
Yeah.
Chuck. Oh, I love Chuck. I always see your pictures, and he's just such a cool horse.
Yeah.
Do you have like a favorite Appaloos? I know that's hard, like, because you love all of them. Do you have, or I guess more of a memorable competition experience that just has really stuck with you?
I would say basically just going into the ranch stuff. I'd been an all-around competitor for like decades. And all my friends are doing ranch. I'm like, oh, I kind of want to do that, but I didn't know if my horse would do it. But Chuck is just a really, he's got a lot of buttons, and that's what you really need in ranch. You just need a horse that's going to be able to do a lot of different maneuvers, and he does really well. And, last year I ended up third for ranch rail, which, it just is mind-blowing to me that, this Western pleasure bred kind of horse was just really out there giving it his all.
Yeah.
And I got called out first under one judge. And that was, because there's 4 judges, they do a composite placing. And I got called out first. I was like, That was my first time. So it was really exciting.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, and I think there's so much misconception because like you said, he's built so nice. Like he has just as much ability as the actual, more quarter horse, cow horse type.
Right.
Like he, they can do that stuff too. Absolutely.
Yeah. Again, a good horse is never a bad color. Good conformation goes a long way.
Absolutely.
So a horse that's made to do performance is going to go out and do whatever you tell them, hopefully.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yes, absolutely. And he just seems like he has such a cool personality too.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
You can see it
He's
in the
goofy.
pictures. He's goofy.
He's goofy. He tries hard.
That's the best.
Yeah.
The goofy geldings.
Yeah.
I love that. That's why I love
Yeah,
them so
gotta
much.
love 'em.
They're silly. Yes.
Saddle fitting is such an important part of equestrian care. What advice do you have for riders looking to find the perfect saddle?
Well, again, going back to kind of what we talked a little bit about, having that critical eye and being realistic in what your goals are and what you want to do with your horse. What are you going to use your horse for? Is it trail riding? Is it Western dressage? Is it roping? Is it some form of combination? You guys know there's saddles for everything. And there's saddles you can cross over. I sell barrel saddles to people who want to trail ride because they want a higher pommel and a higher back. So don't pigeonhole yourself into, I need a trail riding saddle. And again, there's so much information out there. And,
so much information and misinformation.
Correct.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of, Facebook pages, YouTubes, all this stuff, and what it boils down to is, you need to, find people that know what they're doing, like people at this table. And you also need to, just really use common sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A lot of times, if the saddle's popping up, that's a problem. You don't just keep riding
I can't
in
tell
it.
you how many times people will tell me that a saddle is too wide, and I say, well, when you go to cinch it up, does it pop up in the back? And then I explain to them that it's actually not too wide, it's too narrow. You've got a pivot point, and so your saddle's not sitting down far enough. And then when you go to cinch down, it pops up in the back, yada yada. So yes, that common sense
Yeah.
theory is good, but there's also been so many people that we've saddle fit for that will say, I've rode my entire life and never knew a horse could move like this.
Absolutely.
So once you free them up, and that is always a struggle for me, trying to figure out why some horses atrophy, why some horses, get more white spots than other breeds, because I have seen horses that have been in ill-fitting saddles for their entire lives, but their backs still look good.
Right.
So
Right.
I don't know, it would be a great CSU challenge their students last year when I had done a presentation to try to figure out, what different breeds, and I don't know, skin and coat, if that plays a part in, just the different breeds that are out there. We had a little Mustang that the gal had only rode for.
She'd only been in captivity for a year.
And so she'd only been riding for 6 months, but these big old white spots, and the saddle, she drove 7 hours, and we spent 4 hours with her trying to find the perfect saddle. And we did, thank heavens. Lo and behold, it was another Circle Y. I think that Lindsay, you ride in 2 Circle Ys, or
No, I have 3.
you have 3
She's
Circle
a
Ys
problem.
because that's what fits her horse. But on that note, I would like to talk a little bit about, so Circle Y owns their own tree company. How have you guys made it possible to evolve in the saddle fitting industry when a lot of my other makers, and I won't say names, have not? So I very much, the ranch section is probably my biggest struggle. Second is going to be barrel saddles, just to be able to find, enough variety to fit all this huge variety of conformations that we come across. And we want to, fit for that performance horse. And no offense to any of our customers, this is not meant in a bad way, but we see a lot of backyard horses. So, those lines have been crossed a lot of times. There a lot come from rescues, so we don't always have these perfect backs. So my question, sorry, I talked too much, is how does Circle
Yeah.
Y make those adjustments
Yeah,
year after
that's
year
a
after
great
year?
question.
So, great question. And this is one thing that I am extremely proud of our company is, so Circle Y has been around for 60 years. We're probably the largest manufacturer of Western saddles in the world. And we take that very seriously, as you know. One thing that we do that I'm super proud of is, so we get hundreds of tracings a year, if not even maybe 1,000. So we are continually looking at those tracings and kind of taking that information and inputting, because what's happening is horses are evolving. Just like we were talking earlier, 20 years ago, the horses didn't look like they do today.
No.
And we are continually modifying gullets, bar width, bar length to modern horses. So if we are starting to see that shorter back, we are making, more shorter skirts, and the bar flare kind of coming out. Maybe it's only 1 or 2 degrees, but we can do that. We have CAD machines that our trees are designed on. The block of wood goes on a CAD machine, and it's laser leveled.
So to make some adjustments, it's not as difficult as a lot of the old school saddle makers.
Right,
That makes
exactly.
sense. Okay.
So we are continually looking at bar angles, gullet measurements, things like that are going to help fit modern horses or the horse coming along tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's huge for us. Like we
Absolutely.
are, I don't know how to say this lightly, but knowing the undersides of Circle Y saddles, I mean, I've got that down to a science. We can look at a horse and
Just
a lot
plug
of times
in, your brain's plugging in what saddle's going to fit.
Absolutely. This one has a little wider in through the back gullet hole, a little straighter, flatter bar. This one's a little wider channel. This one, we know. And once we put a saddle on, we know, hey, let's go to this one, go grab that one, go grab this one. It's you guys by far are the leaders. And I think a lot of there's certain saddle makers that just dig their feet in and say, our saddles are fine. We are not changing a thing. I mentioned earlier, we've got another company flying out in June to work with us, which is such a huge honor. But I couldn't be prouder. And we tell people all the time that you guys are by far the leader in making sure that saddles fit today's horses.
Absolutely.
So it's
I mean, that's why I have so many of them, because I have 3 very different horses, and literally that's all that, I mean, from my all-around saddle to barrel saddles to the high horse, I mean, that's what, you guys are absolutely, and I had no idea you did the tracings until recently. I did not know that. That's,
We, a lot of people don't have the ability to have a saddle fitter come to them.
Right.
And I actually will, a lot of times I'll help with people with tracings too, so we can get a view of what would work on that horse. But yeah, we get a lot.
Yeah.
Do you want us to send you all of our used tracings after we're done? And
yeah, here's
We
for
can put
research
them in a box.
and development.
Keep them in a box. We'll send them to,
Because man, do we get some wild
we
ones.
go through a lot, and that's how that little gal trailered 7 hours. So we did the best we could, and she said it was the closest that she had so far, but her horse just had a few, horses just don't come in one conformation.
No.
It's funny, I say it all the time, driving down the road, I'm looking at horses all the time and I go, oh, that would fit, this saddle. And I look at the backs as I'm driving, but you get a construction guy in here or a woodworker and he's going to look at all my miters and my cuts and when I'm driving down the road. But we did her horse with back tracings. We had helped her more than anyone else had, any other saddle shop she had been to. So they literally drove 7 hours and stayed here to have a saddle fit for them.
And she did, on a side note, she sent a saddle survey back and she said she went on a 20-mile ride. Wow. And that horse wasn't sore at all. She's like, it literally brought me to tears. Like the horse was perfect. And so the saddle worked great for her.
Well, and also we have to always remember too is like the person too, because really the saddle's the happy medium between the horse and the rider. Mm-hmm. So you deal with like people who are like older that need the stirrups turn so that it doesn't hurt their ankles and their knees, or a higher cantle to really help support their back. Or you have a kid who, the parents are worried and they want that kid stuffed in that saddle and not going to come out. So there's a lot of things too, not only with the horse, but you have to be that. So that's what's so important about a good saddle fit, not just for the horse, but for the rider on top. Yeah.
Yeah, a big thing that has kind of come into our shop since we had this one girl, I think you've met Morgan, she started working here, and she really brought something to us that we'd never thought about, but body position when people are riding, like how that can change a saddle fit, even if the saddle fits fine. Like, so we've really seen a lot of that too, so that's something to,
a little story.
keep in mind.
I'll probably get in trouble with Circle Y for this one, but you guys replaced a seat under warranty for us. And after we got the saddle back under warranty, the customer said, my horse is still getting the hair rubbed a little bit in the back. So when the saddle comes back, will you double check the fit? So I double checked the fit. I'm like, this saddle fits great. What's going on? Are you, moving side to side when you ride? And her friend was with her, thank God. And her friend is like, no, she rides like this. And she scoops and she scoops. So that seat had bubbled because this rider is scooping so much on this gaited horse.
Wow.
So she had literally stretched that leather out a little bit herself by the way she rides. Because she was scooping so much, the skirts in the back were starting to hit, and it wasn't even really the skirts like I showed her. It's beyond where those bars are. Like your saddle ends here, it was back here. But she was scooping
Just
that
so much
saddle.
movement. Just so much
movement that I guess would be more the pad was scooping out the saddle. So she's like, I'm going to work on it. I'm going to work on it. I'm like, you need to stay centered in your saddle.
Sit still.
You
Wait
need
in
to
your
sit, quick.
Heels down.
She has this
Heels down, sit still.
My 4-H leader coming out in me.
big gaited horse that just but we figured that out.
Yeah.
And I think without Morgan, I really wouldn't have thought that piece. But there's a lot of times I realize now more than ever when I'm baffled, how could this still be happening when we fit the horse? A lot of riders are doing things just like that. So it's very important as well.
It brings to mind, I did a saddle fitting out in California when I had that territory. And I was doing a saddle fitting in a barn, and this lady comes out, she says, well, I have a Circle Y, and it's 100% crooked. Like every time I ride in it, it's like the tree's broken or something. I'm like, this is very concerning to me.
Absolutely.
I'm like, well, go get your saddle and put it on your horse and let's take a look.
Yeah.
And so she brings the horse saddled, and it's a pretty new saddle. So I was really concerned. I said, well, let's get on it and see what it looks like. Well, she got on, and I'm walking behind her. One stirrup was here and the other stirrup was literally, I'm like, I think I found the problem. And her friend just fell on the ground laughing. I'm like, she's like, and so we adjusted her stirrups properly. As you know, that's an important part of saddle fitting.
Absolutely.
You go out and test drive a saddle, make sure the stirrups are equal.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so it's funny how little things like that, like the motion or the stirrups, or can throw the rider off just enough to make it like,
whoa,
this isn't right. Something's wrong.
On the flip side, though, I love your analogy, and I've used it. I know you've used it. When people say that they don't necessarily, they ride in it once, they're like, no, I don't like that saddle, and you compare it to like a rental car.
Yeah.
When you get in that rental car, you're like, it's weird, you know?
No, nothing's where it's used to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to give it a chance, and so definitely you want to give it a chance, ride in it more than once usually, and really, test drive it, which is great. You guys give that people opportunity.
And I always give you kudos when I say that. I'm like, my Circle Y rep once said, and that's a great thing to say. And people are like, oh yeah, it makes sense, because they sit in it here and they're like, God, it feels.
I don't like
it.
I'm
like, think about this.
Well, I've had my Circle Y for 30 years. I love it, and I'm like, I love that you love it, but let me tell you, that we've changed in 30
Yeah.
years. You know, we've added technology. We are, again, with the trees and the fibers, the things we add into these saddles now that give, it's like a technological advancement. And the saddle that fits a horse from 30 years ago isn't technically probably going to fit as well a modern day horse.
Right.
Just because of what we talked about, the bar angles and the
you
different.
guys are changing things. You're staying ahead of that game, and it's a lifesaver for us.
It is. It
Without Circle Y, and I love my other saddle makers, but without Circle Y, we'd be lost. We'd be lost. I mean, when we're doing saddle fits, sometimes people are like, "Is that another Circle Y?" Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, you know, I think it goes hand in hand with our partnership that, you know, I love working with you guys because I know you're not getting a lot of saddles back. And if there is a problem, if you guys see something and you bring it to our attention, I know it's a problem.
Yeah.
I know there's a situation we need to work on or fix, and because you were so in tune with your customers, their horses, their riding desires, that's when you put that much effort into it, we need to give you that much back.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think we have a really good working relationship and same kind of like vision or understanding of the horse world, because too, I think we talk to so many people and we say that the horses have changed, you know. What do you mean? They haven't changed. And it's like, no, they even when I started working from you, like that was almost 10 years ago.
Right.
Horses are different, you know. It happens. It's
It
just
does,
crazy.
And you think about the life cycle of a horse and how, you know, quickly that breeding line goes. So
Right.
so it happens a lot quicker than people
think.
people realize.
The generational,
Huge.
you know,
Absolutely.
is a lot quicker than a human generation.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. For sure. And, you know, I know kind of switching gears, but you've made I feel like just in the time that I've known you, you've made such a huge impact in the horse industry. What do you think has been your most significant contribution for, and what do you hope to continue doing, or what's like a goal that you kind of want to make with that?
You know, I think really we touched on it, the caisson. That was
Yeah,
a
that's
huge
huge.
feather in our cap. And I'm really proud of the work I've done with them because they came under scrutiny for using the McClellan saddles, which, you know, we know what those are. They're very narrow. And, you know, in all actuality, these guys are soldiers. They're not
Horse people.
horsemen.
Absolutely.
They're soldiers. And so they've gotten a lot of input now. And, you know, we're really, we've come huge strides. These saddles fit these horses. They're happy. They're comfortable. The soldiers love them.
And the fact that you circle back around and check that fit for
Yeah,
them
right.
and,
That's
you know,
huge.
change
It's
the
important to
horses.
them. That was
adjustments or
part of the
something.
deal.
It's I went out to a riding club that I've dealt with for many years this year, and one of the people, I do presentations, of course, and one of the people asked during the presentation, well, how often should we have our saddles rechecked? And oh my gosh, yeah, I answered that question, and we got flooded with rechecks.
Yeah.
And a
Right.
lot of them are good, but a lot of them, like your horses can change, especially
Right.
if you get a new horse, your feed, your program, everything changes. That horse can change very, very quickly.
From winter to spring to summer, they
Yeah.
can change. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, as they age, they lose top line. As they grow, you know, one of my first things is I ask somebody at Southend, how old's your horse?
Yep, us too.
First thing,
Us too.
because if it's a 2-year-old or a 4-year-old or a 10-year-old, totally different situations
It's different
happening.
life stages,
Right.
you know? Yeah,
I had a
absolutely.
customer the other day ask me, so how soon should you get a saddle checked? I have a 3-year-old, and how soon should you do saddle fit? And I'm like, immediately?
Yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I explained to him, you know, all the reasons why. Getting your training, like you're going to be fighting attitude if that saddle doesn't fit properly. You can be atrophying top line, causing, you know, muscle issues, back issues. There is so many reasons why. And, you know, another saddle maker that we did a podcast with at one point said, I was crazy for offering the 70% trade back, but that's how important it is to me that
Yeah.
customers fit their horses properly and
Absolutely.
that you know, that we can change and pivot with them and be that resource. Like we are not here to just sell saddles in any way, shape, or
Oh,
form.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And what also is nice too, when you talk about a young horse, is, you know, you're training them. So you're training them to either say, wow, that saddle fits me nice and I'm not afraid or doesn't hurt, or you're the opposite.
Or ouch,
So,
I don't like
or ouch,
this. Yeah.
you know, creating that baseline of, you know, is this going to be good or bad?
Absolutely.
You know,
And
and
that
that's
relationship.
huge.
And I think
Right.
the training style has also changed. So there's not as much, and I say this lightly as well, I never want to offend someone, but there is not as many cowboy broke horses as there was back in my dad's day. So that horse learned, you will tolerate this regardless, and you will do what I ask regardless. So the struggle, like I told that gentleman, you get your 3-year-old fit. The problem is you're going to always have to keep that horse fit, because he will let you know if you start out with the right fitting gear, he will let you know the moment it stops fitting. Like you will
Absolutely.
see some definite
Yeah.
changes in
Behavioral
movement,
changes, yeah.
attitude. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think age is important to ask too, because like you just said, whether it is like 4-year-old or a 10-year-old, people always, they're like, oh, it's 5 or 6, so it's done changing. It really depends, because okay, that 10-year-old's gonna change, but in a different way than that 4-year-old, you know. So it's just continuous.
Right.
I mean,
and sometimes it's you just need a new pad.
Yeah,
I remember
sure.
I remember I went and did a saddle fitting, and this lady, she had one of our saddles, and she's like, I've had it for 10 years and my horse, it's fit. It's great. I've used it every day. I ride it every day. I was like, and she goes, all of a sudden all the hair's getting rubbed off on her loins. I'm like, well, that's odd. So I went to her house, did a saddle fitting. I said, well, get me your pad. She got me a wool pad that had this much sweat and hair literally on the bottom.
Yeah.
And I said to her, when's the last time you got a new pad? She goes, when I got the saddle.
Oh my god.
And she rides in it every day. And so, you know, it's like you come up, you know, sometimes it's not about the saddle and it's about, you know.
Absolutely.
Through that club, I did many rechecks in the last few weeks from that club, but one of them was a horse that I had fit 5 years ago. It was 14 at the time. Now it's 19. I could have went down that path of trying to find the perfect fit, but the horse, like you said, their top line, you know, starts to change. So all the angles still matched up, but we literally did a little 1/4-inch shim in the middle, a little 1/4-inch shim behind the shoulders. I was so excited. I made Lindsay come out and
I
check
was
it.
like,
And
whoa, that's
and then
amazing.
we actually did 1/8 of an inch shim in the back, because I had just the slightest little catch going out the back. So we did a little tiny 1/8 of an inch shim, and it just gave enough lift, and that saddle was perfect. So so that horse's conformation stayed consistent as far as angles, but the top line had drooped a little
Right.
bit.
Yeah.
And that
And that's-
customer was so pleased. You know,
Yeah.
we didn't try to sell her a brand new saddle. The horse is 19.
Sometimes,
So-
sometimes it's just a matter of little tweaks that you can, you know, maybe a girth position too,
Absolutely.
or
size.
We've seen
size,
many,
girth
many
size.
times.
We run
Yeah.
into that all the time.
I
like,
mean,
yeah.
there's just so many little things that you don't need a new saddle necessarily. You need, you know, you need some readjustments, and it is really good, like you said, to reevaluate on a regular basis, whether that's every year, every other year, you know, especially in the springtime too. You just, you know, everyone's getting their horses out of pasture if they're not riding them all winter, and they're different.
They are different.
So
They
they're
are
fluffy.
different. Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
My one, if you looked at him, you'd think he was like in full, ready to pop and eat a spider, is so fat right now. I'm like, oh my god, we gotta do something, buddy.
Spa diet.
Yeah. I'm like,
Here's your half a leaf of grass.
Here's this little crumb. That's all you
Yeah.
get. That's funny. But no, it does. All that just comes in, and they can change so quick, even if they are technically past that growing and changing kind of phase, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
I brought my Palomino here, I think it was about 6 months ago, maybe a year. And even Dana, she's fit him. Same thing when I got him as a 2-year-old. I mean, I started off saddle fitting him. So, I mean, it could barely just be like poking him, and oh no, he'd let me know. Like, he is a saddle snob, that horse. And so I can't tell you how many saddles I went through with him. Yeah, he's like, no, this is not, no. And so he knows, but I brought him just to have Dana check, and I have the Helena all around, and it's still fitting him really great. But even she said, like, it still fits fine, but she's like, he's changing a little bit, but he's 12 now, you know, so they change, and not in a bad way, but they develop a little different. And so, yeah, it's just something to be mindful of, you know, regardless of the age and stuff. And I know, like, we've kind of touched on this, like, I know saddle fit and changing horses are definitely a challenge for all of us, but would you say that's the biggest challenge that you face working in the industry, or what's kind of the biggest challenge that you run into as far as being in so many different, you know, industry driven disciplines?
I mean, I think, you know, overall, I think horses have become more of a luxury item.
Absolutely.
You know, for a lot of people, they're not as affordable as they maybe were 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, COVID changed a lot of things. But, you know, I think, you know, horses, I mean, Colorado is one of the top 10 states for horse population in the U.S. And, you know, there's a lot of horses and there's still a lot of land. You still see a lot of horse properties, but I think, you know, the cost of owning and maintaining horses and participating in any kind of activity with them is not, you know, it's a struggle.
Absolutely.
You know, I always tell people buying the saddle's the cheapest part. You know, so, you know, I mean, and then also, you know, people, their goals change, and they want to do something different, or, you know, the trail horse they bought, now they want to do Western dressage, and it's not, so, you know, trying to find the right partner and stuff is really.
Yeah, that can be tricky.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We find that a lot too, like, just like you're saying with the struggles in the ranch saddles and the barrel saddles, people come in looking for a specific saddle, but oftentimes we fit them with something that they just that's not what they wanted, because it's so hard to make that whole picture come together. Yeah. You know,
the aesthetic or the, you know,
yeah,
definitely.
And the cost is insane. Like, I cannot,
well,
I can't even believe.
And no offense, I don't mean to offend anybody, but you get those people that, you know, they go out and they spend $15,000-$20,000 on the horse, and then they want to spend less than $500 on the saddle, and it's like, that ain't gonna work either.
Yeah.
Like, if you have to be able to afford the whole program to be able to take care of the horse if you jump in, and it's for that
it's
reason,
a commitment.
It is. It's a lifelong commitment,
right?
And it's a cyclical thing as well, because people will jump in and don't realize how much is involved, and, you know, time, commitment, and money. So
absolutely, yeah, it's a lot.
It's not for the faint-hearted.
No.
Some days I'm
but
like,
you know,
man.
once it's in your blood, though, you know, it's like you just you know, it's not a hobby you set down and walk away from.
Right.
It's kind of, once you're in it, you're in it.
Yeah.
And, you know,
it feels like it's, at the end of the day, it's hard for me to admit that it's not, but to us it feels like a necessity. Like, it is, like, because that's your life. You know, I've thought about it often, like when you're in kind of a rough time frame or like a mindset, you're like, man, I just don't know if I want to do this anymore. I'm like, what would I do? It's just like sit in my house. I don't know what I would do with myself.
Like clean.
What am I gonna do?
Laundry.
Crochet. You know?
I don't know.
Like, no, that's not for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Laundry.
It was funny. Somebody said to me the other day, "He's like, oh, you're probably going to be riding horses when you're 80." I said, God willing.
I love that. I love, just like, not to keep talking about Martha Josie, but that girl, man, I'm telling you, she just looks so dolled up all the time, and she goes out there. What is she, in her 90s? At least 80s.
She's in her 80s. I don't know her exact age, but you know, she doesn't look it. She doesn't act it either. She doesn't look at her act it. So I know that.
I mean, she'd be out there all day on those horses, just glammed up, and it is. I don't know. Have you ever been out there?
No, but I see a lot of videos.
Oh my God, it is hot. It is horrible out there. It is so muggy, and just I was gonna die. And she's like got her fancy fringe and like her hat and everything.
Yeah,
but I love that.
Yeah,
you know, that they keep doing it.
You know, and you look at her and you say she has bridged the decades.
Oh, absolutely.
Like she is still relevant. She is still knowledgeable. She is every bit a part of designing her saddles, her bits, her tack, her pads. She is involved in every step of that process. 110%. She is an icon, and she is relevant as the day is long.
Well, and she cares still. Like she reminds me of us in the fact that she's passionate about what she does. Like even, I mean, the reunion barrel races, the clinics, there's so many people, and she makes it a point to talk to every single one and check in with every single one. Like she's still a part of it, you know? I, not to get off on a tangent again, but I have kind of a funny story with her. Like my mom and dad took me to NFR when I was the only time that they've ever taken me to the NFR. Okay, may I point that out? The only time we've ever gone to the actual rodeo.
Okay, Mom.
I was an infant, so I can't remember it, and they've never taken me back since. But I was a little baby, and Martha was there, and my mom asked her, "Can you hold her?" And I take a picture. So she, you know, I have this picture that I've held on to my whole life, and it's Martha Josie all, you know, dolled up, holding me, and she's smiling with me. And then she had this like youth hat with like a barrel racer embroidered on it, and she took her pin out of her hat and she pinned it on there and she signed it for me, and she was like, "Yeah, I took that with me to the clinic because I've held on to it because I wanted her to sign the hat again." And I walked up and I showed her the picture and I showed her the hat, and she remembered. And she started bawling, and she just like hugged me, and she was
cry.
I know, like she's just an incredible, like one of the greatest in the like industry. And she signed my hat again for me, and just, I mean, but I don't want to admit that I'm 26 now, but
oh hush, baby.
but she remembered of all the people, like so she's the people in the industry like that like you that genuinely are passionate and care about this, like that's the biggest difference.
And that's what keeps it going. I mean,
absolutely.
I'm a 4-H leader.
Yeah.
I work with 4-H kids, and I've been doing it for 25 years. And that is a passion too. And it's like, if I can just, you know, one light bulb moment for one kid at any given day.
Absolutely.
It's like
change their whole life.
Yeah.
Seriously,
you know, it's really cool. I'm still friends with I'm friends with these young ladies that are your age, and I had them in 4-H I put them on their first horse. I put them up on their first horse, and her name is Alexis. She is out there in, you know, Art of the Cowgirl. She's competing.
That's awesome.
Doing the ranch reining and the ranch cutting and all the ranch horse versatility. And she's a 4-H leader now. Aww. And, you know, I mean, she came to me when she was 6 years old.
Wow.
I mean, and to me, that's like huge.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have a handful of these young people that I worked with that are doing things with horses, that are teachers, that are, you know, they've just gone on to be nurses, these really cool, huge, like, you know, upstanding, great young people. And I think horses is a great foundation for that. Because what does it teach you? It teaches you that you have to get up and you have to be responsible. And, you know, it just instills that even if it's just passion for an animal or another person, or, you know, you take that each step, it's the building blocks foundation of being a solid citizen.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
And I just love scrolling Facebook and seeing these people that I knew when they were this big and putting on and having horses rear and wouldn't pick up the left lead and would, you know, just not do anything. And, you know, I just watch, you know, I just worked with that kid. You can do it. You know, you can, you know, just keep trying. He's never going to get the left lead. Just keep trying. Let's try a different way. How else? What do you think? You know, involving them. I love that. That's my favorite thing. I love working with kids and having those light bulb moments.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Aww. Yeah. That's like, I don't know. That's just awesome.
But the same thing, you know, look how passionate you are. You know, it's just, you didn't know Martha Josie was holding you and giving you stuff. But, but she knew. She knew.
She knew. And
she knew. She's like,
you know?
This kid's going to go somewhere.
Yeah, and that's
look
what
at you now, going to the ruby buckle.
I know. She wrote on my hat that I can't remember. I'll have to show it to you sometime. But something like, you're going to be like a star or something. And I've like, but that has stuck with me. Like, that's, like you just said, all those kids that you've helped. That literally shaped my goals in the industry. I mean, you know. It makes a difference because there's a lot of people in the industry that kind of squash the kids and the, and I hate that.
Yeah, no.
Hate that.
But yeah.
It's just, there's no need for it. This industry we've had some different conversations. It has a lot of, it does have a sense of a community, but on the flip side, and I'm just going to say it, our industry can be very cruel and cutthroat. Like, it just can. So I feel like there's enough of that. You need to be, for all of us to continue in it. Absolutely. But
for sure.
I don't know. One of those things. I know we've talked a lot about like a few different names during the podcast, but has there just been someone that's been your biggest influence through all of this that's just really stuck with you?
Well, I mean, absolutely. Daryl Nephew.
Yeah.
He's the vice president of Tucker Saddles. He was very influential in, my learning about saddle fit, and he was my boss for almost 10 years, and he's just doing a different position now. So I don't get to see him or talk to him as much, which bums me out because he is just a light, and he's very intelligent. He's been in the industry for 40 years. He's very knowledgeable, and he has a great way of getting that information across. He's just always been, he's always had my back every time.
That's important.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then Julie Goodnight, again, great mentor. I've done a lot of clinics with her. I've helped her on her TV show. And so I have that knowledge, and, she's always one to, you want to sit down and have a glass of wine with and just pick her brain about stuff.
Yeah.
And she always has really great stories and great, analogies, and she's ridden hundreds and thousands of different horses.
Oh yeah, I can't even imagine.
So she's, every time she goes to a clinic or she goes to an expo or something, she's always riding a different horse. So she's, and I to me, that's like, oh my God, how do you do that? But I do, so yeah, those are a couple people that definitely, have influenced me.
Yeah, no, that's important. That's awesome. That's awesome. And if you could give, I know this is a broad question, but if you could give one piece of advice to someone like aspiring to follow in your footsteps or go out on their own journey, what would that be?
Yeah, definitely. So one thing I love about horses is that I could live to be 100 years old and still learn something new every day.
Absolutely.
Every single day. Whether it's dressage or anything. I mean, there's so many different avenues to take horses. So I think I have a lot of people say, wow, you have a cool job. How do you get, basically familiarize yourself with horses. Yeah. Be knowledgeable. Like, when you talk about, like, I talk to a lot of horse people and they'll say, that leg thing on the bottom.
Yeah.
Use terminology, learn parts. I tell my 4-H kids, if you have to call the vet because your horse is bleeding off of top of the cannon bone, they're going to ask you where it's bleeding. And, so learn terminology, learn different equipment, talk to as many people as you can and listen. Listen to people. Talk, you're getting a saddle fitting, listen to what you're saying, learn what it means to, be a good horse owner, join a lot of different organizations, volunteer, get out there and, even if you don't know that much about horses, go to a therapeutic riding place and learn to be a sidewalker. I mean, one of the most humbling things you'll ever see is a 8-year-old kid with cystic fibrosis on a horse that is just like, can't, relax their muscles. So
next Monday, I go out to work with a therapeutic riding center that's fairly new, but they were having so many issues with their horses that they started to, now I'm going to get all teary-eyed,
I know.
That they had me come out and do saddle fit, and now it has completely changed their program and completely changed their horses. And once again, if their horse starts to change, they call me because there's something that's going on, and they know if that horse has a behavioral issue, it may be saddle related. And kind of like I was talking about the one lady that kept scooping her seat, those riders are very unbalanced.
Right.
And so that can change how that horse carries themselves, because even
He's
though the
trying to
saddle
compensate.
fit, he's trying to compensate for some of those different riders. So every season now, and sometimes a couple times a season, or every new horse, they have me come out and work with them on saddle fit. And the listening piece, that has been what has allowed us to become the saddle fitters that we are, because we listen to feedback. We don't necessarily have all those answers, and every horse and rider can be unique. But by seeing and asking for feedback of what made a difference when you tried this saddle versus this saddle, and this saddle we have a little bit going on here, this here, blah blah blah. That's what's helped us critique and fine tune.
Right.
It's by listening to those riders, 100%. My dad was very old school saddle fitter, just the typical slide feel, and you were good. And we take it
We take it to the next level.
Yeah.
way beyond that.
Absolutely.
And listening, even like listening to the riders and the people who are handling the horses. But, I mean, I know you guys, we can't, wouldn't it be great if horses could tell us, it pinches here. So I always, I'm always like watching the reaction on the ears and the eyes when I'm palpating a back or touching a horse or pushing it into a spot I might think they're girthy or they're, and if they wince or they put their ears go back
or they kind of
they buckle. I've had horses, I've run my knuckle down a back. Well, I've had a horse just literally buckle because they're that sore. So listen to your horse. Listen to your horse, listen to the people, So I mean, getting into being a saddle fitter, the more knowledge is power.
It is, absolutely.
And, yes, you can go out and learn things from YouTube or Google and, but really hands-on experience and learning how to be cognizant of everybody and every horse.
Absolutely.
I would say probably at least 85% of the time, the person that we do the saddle fit for without us even soliciting that, say the educational piece alone was priceless and it was worth coming
even
here.
If we don't find
even if we don't, they are
mm-hmm.
so ecstatic to
Absolutely.
learn what we have taught them.
Yeah, and it's important to come with an open mind too, because so many people in the industry is just, they're a little closed off because nope, we've used this for 10 plus years, it works, that's all, and blinders. And no, you got to be like you guys, the technology, things are advancing. So even if it, at the end of the day, even if it doesn't work for you, that's fine, but why not, hear it out, be open-minded to things, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, honestly, things we look at technology changing, the AI, everything coming at us full force. There's always going to be changes, and we, I'm kind of, I hate change. I hate it. I'm like, I don't want a new phone. I know. Do not make me get a new phone. But it's inevitable.
Absolutely.
And so, you have to roll with the punches, and you have to be open, and you have to, I deal with a lot of stores that don't like a tacky pad, or they don't, the owners, I'm like, but we sell thousands of them. So there are people, and that's one thing that I know you guys you're open to a multitude of different horse people and likes and dislikes, not just what you guys like, but what sells and what other people are buying.
Sometimes we have to reel in certain people to, keep that open-mindedness. But we do, and, and that's a benefit, I suppose, that I really, really, really listen to customers and what they need and base what I carry in the store on their needs. If they are having a bitting issue, we go to the basics of how the bits work and try to figure out from that, not, well, I've always used this one, so here you go. It'll work for you too. You have to really
and that's why your little village here is such a, it's such a great place for a horse person to come and learn and get answers and find what's going to work. I mean, that's the beauty of this store.
This is a great opportunity. We have to do it every time now. Shop small.
Shop small.
Shop small. Make sure we're still
small,
here.
Everyone.
It's just, the change in the world. It's rough, and COVID changed how people shop. People love coming in the store, and they are shocked by how much inventory and what we carry. But we can only do that if you support small business. So
absolutely. That's you have to. And really, shopping online for a saddle. I mean, I know people that have sent saddles back 4 and 5 times, and it's always better to go in person and try and even if you have to travel 7 hours, it's still worth it. I mean,
Absolutely.
And
so.
we'll tell people that we'll try to, they don't want to do the tracings, and they send us a picture of their horse. And for me, I'll tell them, you know what, we can give this one a try, but if it doesn't work, when you ship back the saddles, ship back those tracings that we talked about.
Right.
Then, and
Exactly.
when customers take them on trial too, let us know, once you're putting the saddles on, these are what we look for. If you let us know when you bring it back what wasn't working with the saddle, then it helps us, because again, we know the undersides of
Like
of
where
the
to go to
saddles.
next.
Yep.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, the big question.
So cute.
What's next for you at Circle Y, or also in your personal journey? What are the new things to be determined?
Some have to be kept secret.
Okay, yes, I figured.
But I mean, I'm getting to the point where I'm kind of winding down in my career, and I actually my goal is to work here 2 days a week when I retire. That's my goal. Is because I do really love my job. I mean, but I can retire. I'm blessed to be able to retire soon, and I really hope that I can work on my artwork more.
Yeah.
But I
awesome.
know I'm always going to have a boot in the equine industry somewhere, whether it's at Saddle Up or wherever. But I mean, I do. I don't see me. Like you said, if we didn't have horses, what would we do?
What would you do? Yeah.
I mean, I'm always gonna, whether it's maybe I work for Circle Y and just work on smaller projects and not have a big territory or something. But I'm not putting the reins down yet.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, one thing we didn't ask, just kind of as a last thing, what are, because I know you have a lot, what are your territories? Like, where do you cover?
Oh, yeah. So I cover Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota, which I just got, and the rest of the world, basically.
All of it.
All the international accounts, and then all the associations and the NBHA, the PRCA, Miss Rodeo America, all those organizations, the mounted shooting, cowboy mounted. So I have a lot of those accounts, and I love the people that come back year after year, and love to work with them and design something new and exciting for the people. So
that's exciting. Yeah. That's so awesome. I love it. Do you guys have anything else before we?
No, I mean, this was really fun. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you for the wonderful years of our relationship.
Yes.
It's fabulous.
Absolutely. You guys are my rock. And I love what you do here, and I've loved watching you grow and watching and becoming this I call this the saddle destination.
Yeah.
People come from 7 different states to come here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's pretty impressive that
It is.
you need a
Okay. We can continue.
yeah.
We can do it.
That's hard.
We got this.
Yeah, I see some empty saddle racks. We'll have a little conversation.
Afterwards, yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you both. That was
Yeah.
super fun. It's always great to see you, but I'm so glad to learn more and just talk about how passionate we all are for the industry. And I love the retrograde stuff. And
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
really,
that was
that's
such a fun way to
funny.
start.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. But thank you again
Yeah.
for being here.
It was
And
fun.
hopefully this won't be the last time. Maybe we can do a reunion episode.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Well,
maybe
thank
we'll
you.
get Martha here. Martha or Julie. Or maybe both.
That.
I have her on my list. I have Martha on my list. I would die.
Oh.
I would just die if she
You
came
never
here.
know.
Yeah.
You never know.
I've got some big names on the list that I'm like, I recently.
We'll get there, sweetheart. Look what we've done so far.
that's
We will
true.
get there.
I'm like a huge fan of Shad Mayfield, and so I had him on there, and then I was like, I put a question mark because I'm like, that's Shad Mayfield. He's probably not gonna.
You never know.
But you never
You never know.
You never know.
It's not. You never know. It's who you know.
It's who you know. There we go. Awesome, ladies. Well, thank you,
Yep.
and see you next time on
Okay.
another episode.
Yep.
All right.
Great.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to give us a like, drop a comment, or subscribe to keep up to date on new episodes. See you next time.